Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast, where we empower through innovation. I'm Allison Lacoussiere, your host, and each week we'll explore the mindset and the skill set of creating a successful practice and life for women in business. From the latest in dental technology to mastering marketing strategies, creating team synergy, cultivating a powerful money mindset, this podcast is your resource to empower yourself and your team to have the most success possible. Whether you're an established business professional or just beginning your journey, we're here to help you unlock your full potential, lead with confidence, and have an incredible journey along the way. Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast. Welcome to Women in Digital Dentistry. I am here with an industry maven, entrepreneur, one of the coolest people that I personally know, Bryan Laskin, Dr. Bryan Laskin. Welcome to Women in Digital Dentistry.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Oh my gosh, you are the second male that we have interviewed on our show. Not because we don't love men, but just because we typically interview women, but you are a very worthy guest to be here to share your knowledge, your wisdom. And I always love to share just how we met and our longstanding friendship on where we've just like nerded out, geeked out on innovation, technology. I was a dental office manager at ADOM. And I remember finding Bryan's booth. It was Tooth Apps at the time. And we ended up
it was Opera DDS at the time.
Oh, you're right. It was Opera DDS. And his team was amazing and super kind. And we ended up implementing Opera DDS into our practice, virtual forms, communication, all these incredible systems. And I remember writing to his team being like, wow, this has changed our practice. And really our friendship kind of just continued on from there. And every single like 6 months or so, we touch base and we're like, what's new? What's happening? So that's how we met. But let me give you a formal introduction because I think what you're doing and who you are is so cool and so needed in our industry. So Dr. Bryan is a Minnesota dentist and a tech entrepreneur on a mission to connect dentistry and empower patients through innovation and standardization. CEO and co-founder of Tooth Apps, as well as the creator of CARE, Dental Standards Institute, and Lake Minnetonka Dental, Dr. Laskin is an advisor to many progressive healthcare companies. He is the author of the Amazon bestselling books, The Patient First Manifesto and The Dental Disorder, and the host of Patient First podcast. His latest book, Unfair Care, is set to be released in October of 2025. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I've a lot of mutual respect. It's been fun over the years, kind of seeing we've both kind of grown in our careers and as has the industry has just changed so much over the last, let's call it several years to not date myself.
Well, I think you play a really cool role being on the actual practicing dentist side and then also owning multiple different tech companies that have changed so many practices. I want to know, and I think my listeners would really want to know, what is your vision for how digital innovation is transforming patient care? Like, what do you see as what's coming? Why do you think it's so important?
Well, first of all, just your question like lights me up because I love how you framed it in patient, like from the perspective of patient care. It's really, what did Jobs say, that you can only connect the dots in reverse. And the thread through my entire career, I've just recently kind of come to realize, has been focusing on patients. It's funny that I say that because my podcast is called the Patient First Podcast. The first book is Patient First Manifesto. But the reason why I say it like that is that I think that we have such a long way to go in dentistry to truly focus on patients. Everybody says they put their patient centered, but also everybody says they're a cosmetic dentist, right? And you've seen the dentistry that's out there. Some of it ain't so beautiful, right? And the same thing is true with being patient-centered. And so I believe the future in dentistry, there's many themes that are going on, but the most important theme for people who are working in dental practice today, I believe, is empowering patients. I believe we are in a period of drastic change where patients, what does patient mean? It literally means being passive and waiting, right? I think that's about to change. I think that patients are no longer going to be passive consumers of whatever they have to. They're going to be empowered with information. They're going to be empowered to make choices. That's already happened. I mean, we see that patients are way more apt to change practices than they used to be. They come in way more educated, but with the explosion of information and available information to patients, I think that there are going to be two types of practices going forward: practices that empower patients and practices that are dying. That's that's how I kind of look at it. And it's a huge, almost uncharted waters, I believe, is empowering patients.
Yeah, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I thought of when you were saying that. And it's true when I think about the practices that I know that are thriving and are being sought out and sought after, they're the ones that are empowering their patients. And it's going to be an interesting next 5 to 10 years, I think, in dentistry as technology and innovation change. We talk about digital dentistry all the time, but I feel like sometimes that lens of like, what is digital dentistry? It just goes into the clinical capacity of digital dentistry. But there's a whole other world of digital dentistry that comes to the communication, the efficiency, the like even just what we implemented in our practice working with you. How do we change the way we operate as a business within digital dentistry? So I would love to know from you, being the expert in your digital companies and a dentist, what do you see as the biggest barriers for improving communication and efficiency in dental practices when it comes to digital dentistry?
Well, so I'll answer a great question first off, and I would say pretty much everything in digital dentistry. Let's back up. At the end of this, what we're really doing is we're providing care for a patient, right?
Mhm.
So, so if we're going to drive revenue in our practice, we have to provide care for our patients. To provide care for our patients, we have to come to a diagnosis, and that, this can be a literal diagnosis, is like, broken cusp on number 14 needs to have a crown, or it could be a figurative diagnosis, like some way that we're going to improve our practice through communication or whatever. But whatever we're doing relies on one thing, and that's information or data. And right now in dentistry, the way data is managed is completely broken. And that's kind of what my second book is all about, and the problem we've been working hard on for the last 4 years, because I think it's the biggest barrier to innovation in dentistry is the lack of access to information. The information in dentistry is available digitally, but it's locked into proprietary systems that have very poorly designed connectors. And that's, it gets a little nerdy, but really it comes down to data accessibility. Who has the ability to get access to the information and use it?
Yeah.
And if we look at who owns the data today, it's dental patients legally, and then dental practices actually have responsibilities to manage that data, and neither one have control. Neither one have control of that access, and we're flipping that on its head. And that's really, it sounds like a self-serving answer, but that's the reason why I'm so focused on this, is that I think it is the biggest problem in dentistry is the lack of accessibility of information for a patient. You look at, like, everybody talks about AI. Well, you can't do AI without having massive amounts of data. And so having access to that is vitally important. Um, so that's number one. Number two, I think, is just the historic massive resistance to change in our industry due to overwhelm, right? People are so busy that it's hard to even think about incorporating that one more thing. And I think the problem is that most of the technology that has been created creates burden for teams. So we need to create technology that deburdens teams, and I think that has been missing in the marketplace.
Oh my gosh, you're so right with this. It's incredible what can happen when technology is implemented appropriately and comprehensively in a practice. Like it's what the technology is made for, is to transform a practice with efficiency, with optimization. But so often that's not done. and it's not able to be done because everyone's so busy and overwhelmed. And yes, that's a really interesting consideration as we continue on, because the technology continues to get better, but the actual implementation of the technology and the use of it isn't really moving that much. So it's a very interesting conundrum. I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. If we could wave a magic wand and the data accessibility problem was completely solved, which I know that's exactly what you're working on, what would happen to the industry?
Oh, I think it would grow tremendously. Everything would be easier. I mean, I think there's a fear of change. You know, we talk to dental practices all the time, and they tell me that they're, for example, worried to give patients their treatment plans because they're worried that the patient's going to go somewhere else, right? I think the opposite is true. I think when you give patients their information, they're going to have they're going to be able to process information. They're become more knowledgeable. And I like to think about it like, if patients had all the information that was in my brain or in your brain about what's going on in their mouth, they're going to be much more likely to go ahead with treatment, right? And so as much as we can get as close to that as possible, that's better. And so when I'm saying making patient having this information easier, it's going to obviously make everything easier in your practice. Frankly, yeah, you could probably run the average practice with one less person on your business team, frankly, because you can leverage tools that just do the boring, laborious, moronic tasks that humans are doing today in a dental practice. So that's kind of a given. But once we give the information to our patients, they're going to be so much more knowledgeable and so much more likely to go forward with treatment. And and one big problem that I think we have in the industry, when I got out of dental school in the year 1999, very much dating myself, uh, about half the patients didn't see a dentist regularly. Today, in the year 2025, about half the patients don't see a dentist regularly. We've done almost nothing to reach out to people that don't see a dentist regularly. Empowering patients that don't see a dental provider today, I think is vitally important. And by opening up this sort of data accessibility, we're going to be connecting with that half the population in the US that doesn't see a dentist today.
That's crazy. I almost can't believe that, because it's so, like, when I think about someone who's never been to the dentist or just doesn't go to the dentist, we know the consequence of that. But if they don't, they'll find out soon enough. But that's not before their entire life has been impacted. And so, wow, that I think is such a huge opportunity. And I think that's something where we bond over, is we look at problems and then we're like, how do we solve them? Let's solve this and turn this opportunity, this problem, into a solution. And so with that, I feel like you always have a really keen eye of knowing the innovations, the trends, the things that like are important to look out for, and also kind of the things that are maybe a little bit of fluff. So what would you say are emerging trends? The women who listen to this podcast and that are a part of this community, like they are the ones that are on like the leading edge, wanting innovation, looking for innovation, early adopters. They would love to know really what emerging trends you're seeing from being an innovator and a dentist.
Well, number one, I think you're leading a trend as women in dentistry. Sort of, women have always been the majority of providers in dentistry, but they haven't had the reins, and I think that's changing quickly, right? Which is great, and I think that you and there's, it's kind of a massive movement in dentistry to sort of facilitate that. So that is one change that sort of falls outside of my day job, I would say, right? As someone who's leading technology companies all the way, because in my world, it's a little bit different because technology, I think, has outpaced dentistry, frankly, when it comes to female leadership, particularly in dentistry. Um, Beyond that, I think I look at right now as a moment in time that we're in as a very much a transitional moment. I think most of us recognize or believe that we're in a period of massive transformative change today, much like we were when I graduated from dental school around the turn of the century. Back then, we were going from analog modern dentistry, four-handed dentistry, and composite fillings and things like that, to digital dentistry. Back then, CAD/CAM systems were around and PMSs were just coming on. Right now, we're coming to, I call it Dentistry 3.0 as defined by connected dentistry. Connected dentistry has some themes, connecting more with the medical colleagues, medicine dental connection, connecting practices through consolidation of DSOs, connected a lot more directly with our patients that we've already discussed a little bit, connecting our systems through interoperability and data management. And so I think the big trends going forward are going to be interconnectiveness. No longer is a solo practice solo, but you are a dot in a network of dentistry that's all interconnected, and not just dentistry, connecting to medicine, nutrition, overall wellness. All of these things are going to be, our mouth. It's table stakes in dentistry at this point, I believe. Hopefully, it is to say that the mouth isn't disconnected from the body. However, our medical colleagues don't think of it that way, right? And so it's on us as oral health professionals to incorporate the rest of the body into the mouth, I believe, more so than the other way around. So those are the major themes, and the actual kind of what you can do about it, interoperability, you can plug into health information exchanges, overall wellness, you can use things like, screenings, salivary diagnostics, incorporating overall wellness practices into your practice, simple things like flu shots, or all sorts of ways you can bring overall wellness into your practice. If you're looking at the business side, something getting involved with more group practices. There's a whole host of opportunities and technologies that are going to be coming over the next few years, I believe, due to our transition to connected dentistry. People tend to focus on a specific tool like CAD/CAM or AI. Those are just, I think, things you can apply to the broader trends of, so that's a long way of saying an explosion of women leadership in dentistry and connected dentistry are the two big themes that I see happening.
Yeah, wow. It's really exciting to think about that, actually, just thinking about what's going to be happening in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in this industry, and really looking at how technology is going to pave the way for better patient care. Because I think truly you're right. Like, our patients are demanding more now. They're asking better questions. They're asking questions about their kids. They're asking questions about their snoring partners. They're asking questions about why their teeth are degrading in different ways. And I think that's a really good thing, because if they have that better awareness and we have the opportunity to solve that faster, patients are just cared for more. So I am always an optimist, and I'm also very excited about different opportunities. So I'm super excited to see where our industry is going to go. And it's interesting too, because women often do have a really high talent of being really good at connecting, of being really good at building communities. And so it'll be interesting to see that intersection between the digital innovation and the female leadership that's coming forward. So really, really fun.
Yeah, I mean you're right at the nexus point of that. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm honored to be. I think you said the second male on the podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, I was like, who's going to be on the podcast? Bryan, he's got to come on. He's got to tell us what's happening in our industry, because you just have such a keen sense for the changes and the innovation, and just such a global perspective of what's happening in our industry, and then continue to build solutions for that. And so I would love for you to share just some of the ways that my community could connect with your team, your companies. Tell us a little bit about CARE.
Oh, care. Thanks. Yeah, care is you can think of it, how most people have access to their medical records and connect with their physician's office through a product like MyChart. Care is that for your dental practice. So it's a mobile application for your patients. And there's all sorts of studies why a mobile application is so much more engaging for people than other ways, like, for example, your website. And so being able to have your patients securely message you, get online, third-party financing directly through a mobile application, review their intro photos when they're at home with their family, pay their bill directly from the application. All of the things that basically any human being on planet Earth should expect to do through a mobile app for your dental practice in the year 2025 and more. Care it's spelled CAIR, is kind of designed to do that, and we're going to expand on that to empower patients more. As you mentioned, I have a book coming out in October called Unfair Care, that is a guidebook for patients to get the best health care possible, right? And we're building tools for patients in care, things like keeping track of their medications, their allergies, their emergency dossier, things so that you can create this information that you can share with any healthcare provider. And then also because you today, except through care, there's no way to marry as a patient, your dental information and your medical information, and then take action on it. And that's kind of what care does.
Very, very cool. Go and check it out. It's care.com. How do we get there?
Oh, care.net, CAIR.net. That's for patients. Or if you want, the sort of the practice side of care, and we do a lot more, is tooth apps. So probably the best place for dental practices to go is toothapps.com.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Bryan, for your expertise, for your leadership. We're probably going to need to reach out to you in another like 3 to 6 months from now and tell us the update of the status of the industry at that point. We appreciate everything that you do for this industry, and definitely just recommend going and checking out what Bryan's working on, because I always find that he's just on the forefront of some of the coolest changes in our industry. So thank you for being you, for solving some of these big problems in our industry, and for coming on and sharing your insight and what you're working on with the women in our community.
Well, thanks for your leadership and all you do. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Been a pleasure. If this episode resonated with you, if you found it fun, interesting, cool, please go and send it to anybody in your industry, anybody in your network that could benefit from this conversation. And we will see you on another episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. Nice. Thank you so much. I knew we'd be able to get through it in the time. I was like, we're just gonna go for it.
Thanks. Was that okay?
It was perfect. Yeah, it was really good. Thank you so much. I
Of
always,
course.
so
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
dealing with my tech
Well,
challenges.
what's that?
Thanks for dealing with my tech challenges and still hopping on.
No worries. Yeah. Appreciate it. Look forward to, I'm going to have to, because I do have a call at the top of the hours, but so I'm going to have to head soon, but appreciate too, you introducing me to a host of people, including our brother, who I just talked to, I think last week. He's super cool, interesting dude. So thanks for that too.
Yeah, he's the best. He's in Japan right now, doing God knows what, just crushing it. So I'm glad that you guys connected.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, it is at the top of my list of places I want to go to. I've never been to Japan, but I would love to.
Me too. I have a feeling we would both love it because of their innovation. It's like the simplicity of their innovation, I think is so cool.
Yeah, and I sat next to somebody on a plane who traveled the world like for years and years, and I asked him what was the coolest thing he ever did, and he said a sumo wrestling match in Osaka. And I was like, okay, like instantly went to the top of my list. Now, because if somebody's traveled all over and said that that's the number one thing that he's ever done, I'm like, okay, now I have to do that at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And Japan is changing something with their regulation or their tax. So you want to go in the next like 1.5 years, I've heard. It's going to
Oh, really?
it's going to get a lot more expensive to go. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Got to try and plan a trip.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. We hope you found today's discussion inspiring and full of actionable insights to help you thrive in your practice and beyond. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. And if you know someone who would benefit from these conversations, please share this podcast with them. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so feel free to leave us a review or connect with us on social media. Together, we are building a powerful community of women leading the way in digital dentistry. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep making a difference in the world of dentistry. Thanks for listening.